In a distant corner of the galaxy, far beyond the reach of Earth's most powerful telescopes, an alien civilization known as the Zenari hovered in quiet contemplation. Their ships were sleek and silent, their technology so advanced that it blended seamlessly with the stars around them. For centuries, they had scanned the cosmos for signs of life, intelligent or otherwise, but found little more than barren rocks and swirling gas giants. That changed one fateful day when their sensors picked up something unusual. It was faint at first, almost imperceptible, a rhythmic pulse drifting through space like a heartbeat. At first, the Zenari dismissed it as cosmic interference, perhaps the remnants of a dying star collapsing into itself. But as their instruments analyzed the signal further, patterns began to emerge. It wasn't random noise. It carried structure, purpose. Fragments of what appeared to be ancient knowledge flickered within its waves. And even stranger, the signal seemed to originate from a small blue planet orbiting a yellow sun, a place called Earth. Back on Earth, no one noticed this cosmic attention. Humanity went about its daily routines, blissfully unaware of the eyes now fixed upon them. In bustling cities, people hurried to work, scrolling through phones and sipping coffee. In quieter corners of the world, farmers tilled fields under the morning sun while children played near rivers. Life moved forward, chaotic yet predictable. But not everyone was oblivious. Dr. Elena Voss, a young astrophysicist working at a remote observatory in Chile, had spent years studying anomalies in deep space. Her colleagues often teased her for chasing shadows, but Elena believed there was always something hidden just beyond the edge of understanding. One evening, as she reviewed data collected by the observatory's radio telescope, she spotted something odd. Buried beneath layers of static was a faint, repeating pattern unlike anything she'd ever seen before. At first glance, it looked like interference caused by solar flares. But when Elena zoomed in closer, her heart skipped a beat. The pattern wasn't natural. It was too precise, too deliberate. She cross-referenced it with other datasets and discovered that similar signals had been recorded sporadically over the past decade, though none had lasted long enough to draw attention. This time, however, the signal persisted, growing stronger with each passing hour. Elena leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. What could it mean? Was it some kind of message? If so, who or what was sending it? She knew better than to jump to conclusions, but her mind raced with possibilities. Could it be evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence, or was it something else entirely? As night fell over the desert, Elena decided to dig deeper. She adjusted the telescope's focus, aiming it directly at the source of the signal. To her surprise, the readings shifted slightly, pointing not outward toward distant stars, but inward, toward Earth itself. Confusion washed over her. How could a signal coming from Earth also seem to be arriving at Earth simultaneously? Before she could make sense of it, her computer screen flickered briefly, displaying coordinates she hadn't entered. They pointed to a region deep within the Pacific Ocean, miles below the surface where sunlight couldn't penetrate. Elena stared at the numbers, her pulse quickening. Whatever this signal was, it wasn't just a scientific curiosity. It felt like a warning. Little did she know, the same question echoed across the stars. The Zenari, watching silently from afar, wondered the same thing. Why was such a seemingly insignificant planet emitting signals that hinted at secrets older than the universe itself? And why did those secrets seem tied to forces capable of ending worlds? The Zenari probe arrived in Earth's orbit silently, its sleek metallic form shimmering faintly as it adjusted to the planet's gravity. Cloaked in technology far beyond human comprehension, it remained invisible to satellites, radar systems, and even the sharpest telescopes. Its mission was simple yet profound: observe, analyze, and determine whether the signal they had detected posed a threat or an opportunity. From their distant observation post, the Zenari watched through the probe's sensors as it began scanning Earth with precision. But instead of focusing on cities, military bases, or industrial hubs, places most civilizations would prioritize, the probe turned its attention to Earth's untouched wilderness. Ancient forests stretched beneath it like emerald carpets, deserts glowed golden under the sun, and vast oceans teemed with life both visible and hidden. The probe's instruments hummed softly as it collected data, searching for anything that might explain the mysterious signal. Back on Earth, strange phenomena began unfolding almost simultaneously. In Alaska, villagers reported seeing auroras at times when they shouldn't appear, vivid greens and purples dancing across the sky during daylight hours. In Africa, herds of elephants suddenly changed course, migrating toward water sources that had long since dried up. And deep beneath the Indian Ocean, seismic activity spiked without causing destruction, sending ripples through underwater fault lines that scientists couldn't explain. Dr. Elena Voss noticed these anomalies too. After discovering the cryptic signal from her observatory in Chile, she became obsessed with finding answers. She reached out to colleagues around the world, sharing her findings and asking if anyone else had observed similar patterns. To her surprise, reports poured in, from geologists tracking unusual tremors to marine biologists documenting erratic whale migrations. Each piece of evidence pointed to one conclusion: something extraordinary was happening, and it wasn't confined to any single location. Elena spent sleepless nights poring over maps and datasets, trying to connect the dots. One evening, while reviewing satellite imagery, she spotted something startling. Bright flashes of light appeared intermittently over remote areas: Siberian tundras, Amazon rainforests, and Antarctic ice sheets. They weren't natural phenomena. They were too localized, too deliberate. It was as though someone, or something, was probing Earth's surface. Her curiosity grew into unease. Governments worldwide were equally baffled. Emergency meetings were held in secret bunkers as officials debated how to respond. Some argued the events were signs of impending doom, a prelude to natural disasters, or even alien invasion. Others dismissed them as mere coincidences, refusing to believe humanity wasn't alone in the universe. Meanwhile, conspiracy theories spread like wildfire online, fueling panic among the public. Amid the chaos, Elena decided to take matters into her own hands. Using her access to academic networks, she pieced together fragments of information that others overlooked. She discovered that many of the affected regions shared a common thread. They all contained ancient sites tied to myths and legends about world-ending forces. These stories spoke of beings who once walked the earth, sealing away powers so destructive they could unravel reality itself. Could these tales hold truth? Elena wondered. Was the signal she detected somehow connected to those forgotten legends? Before she could delve deeper, another anomaly caught her eye. Satellite footage showed what looked like a shadow moving across the Pacific Ocean floor, a shape too large and too fast to be natural. Whatever it was, it seemed to follow the same path as the coordinates her computer had displayed earlier. Unbeknownst to Elena, the Scifi probe hovered nearby, observing her every move. Though unable to communicate directly, the probe recorded her actions with keen interest. The aliens marveled at her determination, noting how quickly she adapted to the unknown. Humanity, they realized, might not be as primitive as they initially thought. For now, the probe continued its silent watch, gathering more data. But as days passed, the question lingered in the minds of both humans and aliens alike. What secrets lay buried within Earth, and why did they seem tied to forces capable of reshaping existence itself? Neither side knew it yet, but first contact had already begun, not with words or gestures, but with curiosity and caution. Elena's investigation took a dramatic turn when she stumbled upon an ancient manuscript buried in the archives of a university library. The document, written centuries ago by a little-known scholar, spoke of the Keepers, beings described as neither human nor divine, but something in between. According to the text, these enigmatic figures had once roamed Earth during its earliest days, tasked with containing forces so powerful they could unravel the fabric of reality itself. These forces were referred to as world-ending energies, chaotic and untamed remnants of creation that threatened to consume everything. As Elena read through the fragile pages, her hands trembled. The descriptions matched the anomalies she'd been tracking. The strange auroras, the seismic spikes, even the coordinates pointing to remote locations. Could it be true? Had Earth somehow been chosen as a prison for these destructive powers? And if so, what role did the signal play in all this? Her mind raced with questions, but one thing became clear. She needed to visit one of the sites mentioned in the manuscript. After cross-referencing the ancient texts with modern maps, she identified a location deep within the Amazon rainforest, a place marked by towering stone pillars half buried in vegetation. Local legends called it Piedra del Silencio, the Stone of Silence, said to hum with energy on moonless nights. With funding from her university and a small team of researchers, Elena set out on an expedition. The journey was grueling, navigating dense jungles and unpredictable weather. When they finally reached the site, what they found left them speechless. Rising from the ground were massive crystalline formations, structures unlike anything Elena had ever seen. They pulsed faintly with light, their surfaces etched with intricate carvings that seemed to shift and change when viewed from different angles. This isn't natural," whispered Dr. Marcus Hale, a geologist accompanying the team. He ran his fingers over the smooth surface of one crystal, his brow furrowed in disbelief. "These patterns, they're too precise. It's like someone designed them." Elena nodded, her heart pounding. She recognized some of the symbols from the old manuscript. They depicted celestial battles between the keepers and shadowy entities resembling eldritch horrors. Twisted, otherworldly beings that seemed to ooze chaos. One carving stood out among the rest, a depiction of Earth at the center of a cosmic web, glowing brightly as though holding the universe together. Beneath it, a single phrase was repeated in multiple ancient languages. Balance must be maintained. While the team documented their findings, Elena noticed something unsettling. The crystals weren't just dormant artifacts. They were alive, vibrating softly under her touch. As she leaned closer to examine them, a low hum filled the air, growing louder until it resonated through her entire body. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled slightly, and cracks began forming around the base of the structures. "We need to leave. Now," Elena shouted, grabbing her equipment and ushering the team back toward their camp. Behind them, the crystals flared brilliantly before dimming again, leaving the forest eerily silent. Unbeknownst to Elena and her team, the Scifi probe hovered high above the canopy, watching the entire scene unfold. Its sensors confirmed what the aliens had suspected. The crystalline formations were part of an ancient containment system designed to stabilize Earth's chaotic core. But there was more. The system appeared to be weakening, its energy fluctuating dangerously. The implications sent ripples through the Scifi Council. If the containment failed, the world-ending forces sealed within Earth would escape, unleashing devastation not only on humanity but potentially across the galaxy. Yet intervening directly carried risks of its own. Humanity's role in maintaining or destabilizing the system remained unclear. For now, the probe continued observing, gathering data while debating its next move. Meanwhile, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they had barely scratched the surface of a mystery far greater than anyone imagined. The carvings, the crystals, the legends, they all pointed to one undeniable truth. Earth wasn't just a planet. It was a nexus, a fulcrum holding the cosmos in balance. Back aboard their observation post light years away, the Scifi Council convened in a chamber bathed in soft, pulsating light. Holographic projections of Earth floated before them, displaying real-time data collected by the probe. The images were both fascinating and troubling. Scenes of humanity's dual nature played out like a cosmic paradox. On one side, there were sprawling cities choking on pollution, weapons of mass destruction stockpiled in bunkers, and forests raised for profit. On the other, there were acts of breathtaking creativity. Art painted on cave walls millennia ago, symphonies composed under starlit skies, and bridges built not just across rivers but between cultures. The council debated fiercely. Some argued that humanity was too volatile, too destructive to be trusted with such immense responsibility. Others countered that humans possessed qualities rarely seen in the cosmos: a relentless drive to adapt, an insatiable curiosity, and an unparalleled capacity for hope. These traits made them uniquely suited to maintain the delicate balance required to contain Earth's world-ending forces. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Alina Voss wrestled with her own revelations. After narrowly escaping the crystalline site in the Amazon, she returned to her lab determined to decode the carvings etched into the structures. With the help of linguists and archaeologists, fragments of meaning began to emerge. One recurring theme stood out: humanity itself played a role in the containment system, not as its creators, but as its guardians, or perhaps its unwitting saboteurs. According to the ancient texts, the keepers hadn't simply sealed away the chaotic energies. They had woven humanity into the fabric of the system. Every act of kindness, every moment of connection, strengthened the seals. Conversely, every war, every environmental disaster weakened them. It was as if Earth's stability depended on the collective emotions and actions of its inhabitants. Helena struggled to wrap her mind around this concept. How could something so intangible, the feelings and behaviors of billions of people, impact forces older than time itself? Yet the evidence was undeniable. Historical records showed correlations between periods of global strife and spikes in seismic activity or climatic upheavals. Similarly, times of unity and progress coincided with calmer, more stable conditions. Her findings sparked heated discussions within the scientific community. Skeptics dismissed her theories as pseudoscience, while others saw potential truths hidden beneath layers of metaphor. Governments, however, took notice. Classified briefings were held in secure facilities, where officials pored over Alina's reports alongside intelligence gathered from unexplained phenomena worldwide. Panic simmered beneath the surface. What if humanity's worst impulses were already tipping the scales toward catastrophe? Amidst the growing tension, the Zenari probe continued its silent vigil. Observing humanity's complexity up close, it detected patterns even Alina hadn't noticed. For instance, during moments of widespread fear or anger, the crystalline formations emitted faint vibrations that destabilized the containment field. But when large groups of people came together in celebration, mourning, or shared purpose, the crystals resonated harmoniously, reinforcing the seals. This discovery intrigued the Zenari. They realized humanity wasn't merely a passive participant in the system. It was integral to its function. Each human life contributed to the balance, whether through conscious effort or subconscious influence. This revelation raised profound questions. Should they intervene to prevent potential failure? Or should they trust humanity to navigate its own path, flaws and all? For now, the probe remained cautious, continuing to monitor without interference. But the aliens couldn't ignore the stakes. If Earth's containment failed, the consequences would ripple across the galaxy, threatening countless worlds, including their own. On Earth, Alina sat alone in her office late at night, staring at maps dotted with anomalies. She felt the weight of what she'd uncovered pressing down on her shoulders. Humanity's survival, and perhaps the fate of the entire universe, rested on choices yet to be made. And somewhere deep inside, she wondered, were humans ready to rise to the challenge, or would their darker instincts seal their doom? Alina's team returned to the Amazon site weeks later, armed with new tools and a deeper understanding of what they were dealing with. The crystalline structures still stood where they had left them, glowing faintly under the dense jungle canopy. But something felt different this time. The air was heavier, charged with an energy that made the hair on their arms stand up. Alina couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, though not by human eyes. As they approached the largest crystal formation, Alina noticed fresh cracks, spiderwebbing across its surface. They hadn't been there during their first visit. Her heart sank as she realized the containment system was deteriorating faster than anyone had anticipated. Whatever forces were sealed within Earth weren't just restless. They were pushing back, testing the boundaries of their prison. The team worked quickly, setting up sensors and cameras to document every detail. Dr. Marcus Hale used a handheld scanner to analyze the vibrations emanating from the crystals. "It's like they're warning us," he muttered, his voice tinged with awe and unease. These frequencies matched seismic activity patterns we've seen before major earthquakes, but amplified. Elena knelt beside one of the carvings, tracing its intricate lines with her fingers. The symbols seemed clearer now, almost glowing against the smooth surface. She recognized recurring motifs: stars colliding, oceans boiling, skies splitting open. Between these apocalyptic images were depictions of humanity, tiny figures holding hands, forming circles, standing together against shadowy entities. It was a message, plain and simple. Unity was key to maintaining balance. But time was running out. As the team worked, the ground trembled again, more violently this time. A low rumble echoed through the forest, sending birds scattering from the treetops. Elena looked up sharply, her instincts screaming at her to leave. "We need to go," she said firmly, gathering her notes and equipment. "This place isn't safe anymore." Reluctantly, the team retreated, casting nervous glances over their shoulders as they made their way back to camp. That night, huddled around a flickering lantern, they reviewed the data they'd collected. The crystals weren't just markers of the containment system. They were conduits, channeling Earth's chaotic energies into a stable pattern. And now, those conduits were failing. Unbeknownst to Elena and her team, the Zenari probe hovered silently above the jungle, observing the destabilization with growing concern. Its advanced sensors detected fluctuations in the planet's core, waves of raw energy radiating outward like ripples in water. The aliens knew what this meant. The seals were cracking, and the world-ending forces were beginning to stir. Back at her lab, Elena pieced together fragments of information, trying to decipher the carving's final secrets. One image haunted her, a massive figure standing at the edge of a swirling void, arms outstretched as if holding it close. Surrounding the figure were smaller shapes, linking hands in a chain. The caption beneath read, "Together, or all will fall." She realized then that the containment system wasn't just physical, it was emotional, spiritual. Humanity's collective actions and intentions played a direct role in keeping the chaos at bay. Acts of hatred, greed, and division weakened the seals, while compassion, cooperation, and hope strengthened them. The stakes were higher than she'd imagined. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden power outage. The lights flickered off, plunging the lab into darkness. Outside, the sky lit up with eerie green and purple auroras, pulsing rhythmically like a heartbeat. People poured into the streets, staring upward in stunned silence. Social media erupted with videos and photos of the phenomenon, accompanied by panicked speculation about alien invasions or impending doom. Elena stepped outside, her breath catching as she gazed at the glowing heavens. For a moment, she thought she saw shapes moving within the lights, figures stretching toward Earth, their forms indistinct but undeniably alive. Then, as quickly as it began, the display faded, leaving behind an unsettling quiet. Deep underground, the crystals continued to hum, their light dimming further. Somewhere far below, something stirred, rushing against the edges of freedom. Elena clenched her fists, determination hardening her resolve. If humanity had any chance of survival, they needed to act. And fast. The Zenari Council convened once more, their holographic chamber now bathed in urgent red light. Data streamed in from the probe, painting a grim picture of Earth's accelerating instability. The containment system was failing faster than predicted, and the chaotic energies sealed within the planet were beginning to seep through cracks in the seals. If left unchecked, these forces would not only devastate Earth, but could ripple outward, destabilizing entire star systems. But intervention wasn't simple. Humanity's dual nature, Its capacity for both destruction and hope made direct action risky. Any misstep could trigger panic or even accelerate the collapse they sought to prevent. After hours of deliberation, the council reached a decision. They would attempt communication, not openly, but subtly, using symbols and imagery that transcended language barriers. Back on Earth, strange phenomena began occurring worldwide. In bustling cities like Tokyo and New York, people reported seeing ethereal figures appearing in the sky during twilight hours. These apparitions glowed faintly, their forms shifting between human-like shapes and abstract patterns. They didn't speak. Instead, they projected images directly into the minds of those who witnessed them. Scenes of cosmic battles played out, showing shadowy entities being contained by luminous guardians. The message was clear. Something ancient and powerful lay buried beneath Earth, and its release would mean catastrophe. Alina Voss was among the first to witness one of these visions. She had been walking home late at night when the air around her seemed to shimmer. A figure materialized before her, a towering, translucent being radiating calm authority. Its presence filled her with awe, yet it conveyed no hostility. Instead, she felt an overwhelming sense of urgency, as though the figure were pleading for help. Images flashed in her mind. The crystalline structures, the carvings, and finally, humanity itself standing united against encroaching darkness. At first, Alina thought she was hallucinating. But when reports flooded social media of similar sightings across continents, she realized this was no isolated incident. Governments scrambled to respond, dismissing the visions as mass hysteria or some kind of global hoax. Yet Alina recognized them for what they truly were: attempts at communication. Determined to decode the alien's message, Alina gathered a team of linguists, psychologists, and artists to analyze eyewitness accounts. Patterns emerged quickly. The visions emphasized unity, cooperation, and balance, themes consistent with the carvings she'd studied earlier. It became evident that whoever, or whatever, was behind these manifestations wanted humanity to take responsibility for stabilizing Earth's containment system. Meanwhile, the Zenari observed humanity's reaction with cautious optimism. Some responded with fear, interpreting the visions as omens of doom. Others saw them as divine messages, sparking religious fervor. But a growing number of people began organizing grassroots movements aimed at fostering global harmony. Communities came together to clean polluted rivers, plant trees, and bridge cultural divides. Even world leaders, initially skeptical, started discussing unprecedented collaborations to address environmental crises and reduce geopolitical tensions. Alina found herself at the center of this movement. Her research gained international attention, drawing support from scientists, activists, and spiritual leaders alike. Together, they formed a coalition called Harmonia Terra, dedicated to strengthening Earth's fragile equilibrium. Through conferences, online platforms, and public demonstrations, they spread awareness about the importance of collective intention in maintaining balance. The Zenari watched these efforts closely, impressed by humanity's resilience and adaptability. Though still uncertain whether humans could succeed, they decided to amplify their subtle guidance. Using the probe's technology, they subtly enhanced moments of unity, amplifying feelings of connection during large gatherings and encouraging acts of kindness through gentle nudges in brainwave activity. For Alina, the stakes had never felt higher. She knew the visions weren't just warnings, they were calls to action. Humanity stood at a crossroads, teetering between chaos and salvation. As she looked up at the night sky, now occasionally lit by ghostly auroras, she whispered a silent promise: "We won't let you down." Somewhere beyond the stars, the Zenari Council nodded in approval. For the first time, they allowed themselves a flicker of hope. The world was changing, and not just in the skies. Inspired by the ethereal visions and Alina's relentless advocacy, humanity began to awaken to its role as Earth's guardian. Grassroots movements blossomed into global initiatives, uniting people from every corner of the planet under a shared purpose. Social media buzzed with hashtags like #OnEarth and #BalanceTogether, while cities hosted massive gatherings where strangers linked hands, sang songs, and meditated en masse. It wasn't perfect. Skepticism and resistance lingered. But for the first time in history, billions of people were focused on a single goal: healing their fractured world. Elena stood at the forefront of this transformation, her voice resonating through crowded auditoriums and live broadcasts. She spoke not as a scientist, but as a storyteller, weaving together ancient myths, modern science, and personal conviction to paint a vivid picture of what was at stake. "We are more than individuals," she declared during one speech that went viral. "We are threads in a cosmic tapestry, holding together something far greater than ourselves. Our actions matter, not just for us, but for everything." Her words struck a chord. In India, villagers planted millions of trees along barren riverbanks, guided by elders who recalled stories of balance passed down through generations. In Africa, communities worked together to restore overgrazed lands, using traditional methods combined with cutting-edge technology. Even corporations, pressured by public outcry, began shifting toward sustainable practices, pledging to reduce emissions and protect ecosystems. But it wasn't just about physical efforts. Harmonia Terra emphasized the importance of emotional and spiritual unity, encouraging acts of compassion and forgiveness. Schools introduced programs teaching empathy and conflict resolution, while religious leaders called for interfaith dialogues aimed at bridging divides. Artists created murals depicting humanity standing shoulder to shoulder against shadowy forces, while musicians composed anthems celebrating hope and resilience. Amid these efforts, the Zinari probe continued its silent support, subtly amplifying moments of collective intention. During a global meditation event held simultaneously in dozens of countries, participants reported feeling an inexplicable warmth spreading through their bodies, as though connected by invisible threads. Scientists monitoring brainwave activity noted unusual synchronization among participants, even those separated by vast distances. Though no one could explain it, the sense of connection was undeniable. Still, challenges remained. Natural disasters grew more frequent and severe, serving as grim reminders of the stakes. In coastal regions, rising seas forced mass evacuations, while wildfires ravaged forests despite desperate attempts to contain them. Yet, instead of succumbing to despair, communities rallied to rebuild stronger and smarter, incorporating lessons learned into new designs for resilient infrastructure. Elena and her team identified critical locations where the containment systems were weakest: the Amazon site, deep ocean trenches, and remote deserts, and devised plans to reinforce them. They discovered that synchronized human intent played a crucial role. When groups gathered near these sites and focused their thoughts on stability and harmony, the crystalline structures responded, glowing brighter and emitting steadier vibrations. One night, as Elena led a group of volunteers to a desert site marked by ancient carvings, she noticed something extraordinary. As they meditated beneath a star-filled sky, the ground beneath them began to hum softly. The air shimmered, and faint outlines of luminous figures appeared, standing alongside them. These weren't the alien apparitions from before. They resembled humans, yet radiated an otherworldly glow. Their presence brought peace, reinforcing the message: humanity wasn't alone in this fight. Back aboard their observation post, the Zinari Council watched with growing admiration. Humanity had risen to the challenge, proving itself capable of incredible feats when united by a common cause. But the final step loomed ahead: a ritual requiring global participation to fully stabilize the containment system. Time was running out, and the eldritch forces sealed within Earth were growing restless. As dawn broke over the desert, Elena looked out at the horizon, her heart swelling with determination. The awakening had begun, but the hardest part was yet to come. The final piece of the puzzle fell into place when Elena deciphered a hidden layer in the carvings at the desert site. Beneath the glowing symbols and intricate patterns lay instructions for a ritual, a synchronized act of collective intent designed to stabilize Earth's containment system. It wasn't just about gathering people. It required unity on an unprecedented scale. Every human being, regardless of location or belief, had to focus their thoughts and emotions toward one goal: restoring balance. Alina knew this was humanity's last chance. The crystalline structures were failing rapidly, their light dimming with each passing day. Seismic activity intensified worldwide, and strange phenomena, glowing fissures opening in remote areas, unexplained storms tearing through cities, grew more frequent. The eldritch forces sealed within Earth were no longer content to wait. They pushed against their prison, testing its limits, seeking freedom. With time running out, Alina and Harmonia Terra launched a global campaign unlike anything the world had ever seen, using every available platform. Social media, television, radio, even billboards, they spread the message far and wide. This isn't about borders, politics, or religion, Alina said during a live broadcast that reached billions. It's about us, all of us, standing together as one. On the appointed day, we must focus our hearts and minds on hope, love, and unity. That's how we'll save ourselves. The response was overwhelming. Skeptics who once dismissed the visions as hoaxes joined hands with believers, recognizing the urgency of the situation. World leaders declared the day a global holiday, urging citizens to participate. Religious institutions called for prayers and meditations, while schools organized events where children painted murals and sang songs of peace. Even corporations paused operations, encouraging employees to take part in what became known as the Day of Balance. As the date approached, preparations intensified. Ancient sacred sites, Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, Uluru, were designated as focal points for gatherings. Millions traveled to these locations, braving long journeys and crowded conditions to be part of something greater than themselves. Others stayed home, lighting candles, planting trees, or simply sitting quietly with loved ones, focusing their thoughts on harmony. On the morning of the Day of Balance, the atmosphere felt electric. From bustling cities to quiet villages, humanity came together in ways never thought possible. In New York City, thousands gathered in Times Square, holding hands and chanting words of hope. In rural India, farmers stood in fields, linking arms as they prayed for Earth's healing. Beneath the northern lights in Norway, indigenous elders led ceremonies honoring ancestral wisdom, while in Australia, surfers paddled into the ocean, forming a human chain along the shoreline. At each sacred site, volunteers guided participants through meditation exercises designed to amplify collective intention. Alina herself led the group at the Amazon site, her voice steady despite the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. Think of everything you love, she instructed. Your family, your friends, the beauty of nature. Channel that love into the ground beneath you. Let it flow into the crystals, strengthening the seals. Unbeknownst to humanity, the Zenari watched with bated breath. Their probe hovered silently above Earth, subtly amplifying the ritual's effects using advanced technology. As millions focused their thoughts, the containment systems responded. The crystalline structures flared brilliantly, their vibrations sensing across continents. For the first time in centuries, the chaotic energies sealed within Earth began to settle. But the battle wasn't over yet. Deep below the surface, shadowy tendrils lashed out, resisting the renewed stability. The ground trembled violently, threatening to disrupt the ritual. Panic rippled through some groups, but Alina's voice cut through the chaos. Stay strong. We're doing it. We're winning. Her words reignited determination. Across the globe, people doubled down, pouring every ounce of emotion into the effort. Slowly but surely, the tremors subsided, replaced by an eerie calm. In space, the Zenari probe recorded the event with awe. Humanity had proven itself capable of extraordinary feats, not through force, but through unity. Though challenges remained, the immediate threat had been neutralized. As night fell, stars twinkled brightly above a planet breathing easier. Alina looked up, tears streaming down her face. They had done it, together. But she knew this was only the beginning. As the last echoes of humanity's collective effort faded, Earth seemed to exhale, a deep, shuddering breath that rippled through its core. The crystalline structures glowed steadily now, their light pulsing in harmony with the planet's heartbeat. But beneath the surface, the battle was far from over. The eldritch forces sealed within Earth weren't ready to surrender. They thrashed against their prison, unleashing one final surge of chaos. Alina felt it before anyone else, a sharp tremor that rattled her bones as she stood at the Amazon site. Around her, volunteers stumbled, clutching each other for support. The air grew thick, charged with an oppressive energy that made it hard to breathe. Above them, the sky darkened unnaturally, clouds swirling into a maelstrom that crackled with green and purple lightning. It was as though the very fabric of reality was being tested. "We're not done yet," Alina said, her voice cutting through the growing panic. She grabbed a nearby microphone, addressing the crowd. "This is it, the final push. Whatever you're feeling right now, fear, doubt, it's normal. But don't let it win. Focus on hope, on love, on everything that makes us human." Her words spread like wildfire, relayed by organizers at sacred sites around the world. In Machu Picchu, elders led chants louder than ever, their voices rising above the howling winds. At Stonehenge, thousands clasped hands tighter, tears streaming down their faces as they poured every ounce of emotion into the ritual. Even those at home, watching live streams or meditating alone, felt the weight of the moment and redoubled their efforts. The Scifi probe hovered silently above Earth, its systems working overtime to amplify humanity's intentions. Using advanced technology, it channeled waves of stabilizing energy toward the containment system, reinforcing the seals just enough to give humanity a fighting chance. Yet even the aliens could sense the strain. If the chaotic forces broke free now, there would be no stopping them. Deep underground, something ancient stirred. Shadows coiled and writhed, pressing against the barriers that held them captive. For a fleeting moment, they pushed through. A tendril of darkness snaked upward, manifesting briefly as a swirling vortex near Uluru. Witnesses screamed as the ground cracked open, revealing glimpses of a void teeming with unspeakable horrors. But then, something remarkable happened. A young girl standing near the edge of the fissure stepped forward, unafraid. Clutching a handmade dream catcher gifted by her grandmother, she whispered softly, "You can't have our world." Her simple act of defiance sparked a chain reaction. Others joined her, holding up symbols of hope: prayer beads, painted stones, photographs of loved ones. Together, they formed a barrier of light, forcing the shadowy tendril back into the depths. Similar scenes unfolded worldwide. In Norway, a fisherman played a haunting melody on his fiddle, channeling centuries of ancestral resilience. In Japan, monks rang bells in unison, their sound resonating across valleys. Each act, no matter how small, contributed to the global wave of intent. Back at the Amazon site, Alina closed her eyes, focusing all her energy on the crystals before her. She imagined them as pillars of light, anchoring Earth to the cosmos. Around her, others did the same, their combined willpower creating a symphony of unity. Slowly but surely, the tremors subsided. The storm clouds began to dissipate, replaced by streaks of golden sunlight breaking through the darkness. For a moment, silence reigned. Then, a low hum filled the air, a soothing vibration that seemed to emanate from the planet itself. The crystalline structures flared brilliantly one last time before settling into a steady glow. The containment system had stabilized. In space, the Scifi probe recorded the event with quiet admiration. Humanity had faced its darkest hour and emerged victorious, not through weapons or technology, but through sheer determination and compassion. The Council exchanged nods, their decision clear. Earth would remain under observation, but intervention wouldn't be necessary, for now. As dawn broke over the horizon, Alina looked out at the exhausted yet triumphant faces around her. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she whispered, "We did it. Together." But she knew this was only the beginning. The scars left behind by humanity's mistakes would take generations to heal. Still, for the first time in years, there was hope, a fragile but enduring light guiding the way forward. In the days following the Day of Balance, Earth began to heal. The storms that had ravaged coastlines calmed, and rivers once choked with pollution ran clear again. Forests showed signs of renewal, saplings sprouting where barren land had stretched for miles. Even the air felt lighter, as if the planet itself was breathing easier. Humanity marveled at these changes, realizing they were witnessing something extraordinary, a testament to what could be achieved when people came together with a shared purpose. Alina Voss became a symbol of this new era. Her name was spoken in reverence across continents, her face appearing on magazine covers and billboards alongside messages of unity and resilience. Yet she remained humble, insisting that the victory belonged not to her, but to every person who had participated in the ritual. "This wasn't my fight," she said during an interview broadcast worldwide. "It was ours, and it's proof that we're capable of so much more than we think." The lessons learned from the crisis sparked a global transformation. Governments collaborated like never before, forming coalitions dedicated to environmental restoration and social equity. Corporations adopted sustainable practices not out of obligation, but because consumers demanded it. Schools integrated teachings about balance, empathy, and collective responsibility into their curricula, ensuring future generations would inherit a world shaped by hope rather than fear. But perhaps the most profound change occurred within individuals. People began prioritizing connection over conflict, kindness over cruelty. Acts of generosity, once considered small or insignificant, were celebrated as vital contributions to humanity's shared mission. Strangers helped each other cross streets. Neighbors planted gardens together. Families forgave old wounds and rebuilt fractured relationships. It was as though the ritual had awakened something deep within everyone, a recognition of their interconnectedness. Meanwhile, the Scifi observed quietly from afar. Their probe lingered in Earth's orbit for several weeks after the containment system stabilized, gathering data and documenting humanity's progress. They noted how quickly humans adapted to their newfound awareness, channeling their energy toward healing rather than destruction. Though cautious, the aliens couldn't deny their admiration. Humanity had proven itself capable of incredible feats, not through brute force, but through compassion, creativity, and cooperation. Before departing, the Scifi left behind a gift embedded in Earth's moon, a beacon designed to signal their readiness to assist if needed again. The beacon emitted no visible light, detectable only by advanced technology. To humanity, it served as both a reminder and a promise. They were not alone in the cosmos, and help would always be available should they falter. For Alina, life returned to a semblance of normalcy, though nothing could erase the memories of what she'd experienced. She continued her work, traveling the world to share stories of Earth's triumph and inspire others to carry the torch of hope. On quiet nights, she often gazed at the stars, wondering about the beings who had watched over them during their darkest hour. Though she never received direct confirmation, she felt certain they were still there, silent guardians observing from the shadows. One evening, while visiting the Amazon site, Alina noticed something unusual. The crystalline structures, now stable and serene, shimmered faintly under the moonlight. As she approached, she saw faint carvings glowing softly on their surfaces, new symbols etched into the ancient stone. One stood out among the rest, a figure holding hands with another, surrounded by constellations. Beneath it read a single phrase in multiple languages: "Together, you hold the stars." Tears welled up in her eyes as she traced the words with her fingers. It was a message, not just from the Keepers or the Scifi, but from Earth itself. A reminder that humanity's strength lay not in its resources or technology, but in its boundless potential to create, connect, and persevere. As she walked away, the forest seemed alive with whispers. The rustle of leaves, the chirping of crickets, the distant call of birds. For the first time, Alina realized these sounds weren't random. They were part of a greater symphony, one played by all living things. Earth wasn't just a planet. It was a living, breathing entity, sustained by the harmony of those who called it home. Far above, the Zenari Council watched Earth with newfound respect. Humanity had faced chaos and emerged stronger, proving that even the smallest acts of kindness could tip the scales toward balance. As stars twinkled in the endless expanse, the cosmos held its breath, knowing Earth carried secrets even the oldest civilizations had yet to understand.